Hey everyone, welcome to a deep dive on something I think we all could use a boost on sometimes, our morning routines.
Yeah.
But this isn't just about like productivity hacks and, getting more done. We're really talking about blood pressure and how the choices that you make right when you wake up can actually have a real impact on your heart health.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're looking at a stack of articles, actually, that focus on some surprising connections between your morning habits and your heart.
Okay, so we're talking everything from that first cup of coffee
Yeah,
to like how the way you wake up could be secretly like spiking your blood pressure.
it's true. And just a quick reminder before we get too far, this is all about, adding tools to your toolbox, not replacing your doctor's advice.
Exactly. Yeah. This is not medical advice. Think of it as like, a little extra knowledge to kind of empower you to kind of, live that healthy life.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. Let's start with everyone's favorite morning pick-me-up coffee. One of the articles mentioned that that morning cup of coffee could actually cause a temporary spike in your blood pressure.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not throwing my coffee pot out the window just yet. How drastic are we talking here?
Well, it's not, like you said, it's not a reason to panic,
Okay.
but it is worth noting. Studies show that 2 to 4 cups of coffee can temporarily increase your systolic blood pressure by about 8 millimeter Hg
Okay.
and your diastolic by about 6 millimeter Hg. So,
Okay.
you know,
So it's not nothing.
yeah, it's not nothing.
Yeah.
But the good news is this spike usually levels out within 4 hours.
Okay. All right. So maybe not a deal breaker for everyone, but what about people who are already watching their blood pressure? Or maybe they have like a family history of heart issues. Should they be a little more concerned?
Yeah, I mean, that's where things get a little more personalized, right?
Okay.
So if you're already managing high blood pressure or you have any concerns, definitely chat with your doctor.
Mm.
They can help you figure out a caffeine limit that makes sense for your individual health situation.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So, maybe swap that extra strong brew for decaf or save your caffeine fix for, a little bit later in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about something even more important than coffee. Breakfast.
Okay.
I was so surprised to learn that regularly skipping breakfast is actually linked to higher blood pressure in adults.
Interesting.
How does that even work? Like, is it just because we're grumpy without our morning fuel?
It's a bit more complex than that,
Okay.
although I'm sure grumpiness doesn't help. But,
Right.
it all comes down to blood sugar regulation.
Okay.
Having breakfast, especially one that's balanced and nutritious, helps your body maintain stable blood sugar levels throughout the day.
Okay.
And stable blood sugar equals happier blood vessels
Ah, okay.
and healthier blood pressure in the long run.
So it's not just about eating something, it's about making a healthy choice, too.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, one of the articles highlighted a breakfast parfait with nuts and fruit as a great option for blood pressure control.
Yeah, it's a great option, and there's some cool science behind it, too.
Okay.
Nuts, especially walnuts and almonds, are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which have been shown to lower systolic blood pressure.
Yeah, we're not just talking about like a tiny dip. Some studies show reductions of up to 8 millimeter Hg.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you've got the fruit adding another layer of blood pressure benefits.
Like how kiwi, bananas, and oranges are all associated with lower blood pressure.
Precisely. Plus, those fruits pack in a ton of fiber, vitamins, antioxidants,
Mm.
all of which contribute to overall health.
It's like this parfait example really highlights how powerful it can be to combine different elements for like optimal blood pressure benefit, right? You
Mhm.
got your fiber, you got your healthy fats, your antioxidants.
Right, you're getting it all in one little.
It's like a delicious puzzle for your plate.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so if nuts and fruit are in, I'm guessing this means sugary cereals and pastries are out.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. I know. While they might be tempting, those sugary breakfast options are loaded with added sugars,
Right.
especially high fructose corn syrup, which can wreak havoc on your blood pressure.
Okay, walk me through this. How does sugar actually impact blood pressure?
So it's all about those hormonal pathways that regulate blood pressure.
Okay.
Too much added sugar disrupts these delicate pathways,
Okay.
leading to a chain reaction that you don't want.
So like a domino effect for your health.
Exactly. Excess sugar spikes blood sugar levels, which in turn contribute to plaque buildup in the arteries,
Oh, no.
making them less flexible and ultimately increasing blood pressure.
That's a chain reaction I definitely want to avoid. Any tips for like steering clear of those sneaky sugars, lurking in our breakfast foods?
Yeah. Your best bet is to become a label detective.
Okay.
Pay close attention to the nutrition labels on your food, especially that added sugar content.
Okay.
Anything with 20% or more of the daily value for sugar is considered high sugar and best enjoyed sparingly.
That makes sense. What about fruit, though? I mean, they have natural sugars, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Fruit is a bit different.
Okay,
They contain natural sugars, which are completely fine. They're actually beneficial for you.
got it.
It's those added sugars, often highly processed, that we really want to be mindful of.
Got it. Okay, so load up on those fruits and maybe save the pastries for a special occasion treat.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now let's talk about another important part of a healthy lifestyle, and that is exercise.
Right.
We all know that being active is good for us.
Right.
But when it comes to blood pressure, is it about those intense workouts? Or is there more to this story?
Right. And that's where these articles get really interesting
Okay.
because they're suggesting it's not necessarily about pushing yourself to the limit every day,
Okay.
but more about incorporating regular, moderate intensity exercise into your routine.
Okay, so what does that look like in real life?
Think of it this way. Aim for at least 2.5 hours a week of activities like brisk walking, jogging, cycling, or swimming.
Okay.
And the best part is, even just 15 minutes a day can make a difference.
Wow, so consistency over intensity.
Precisely. It's about making physical activity a sustainable part of your lifestyle,
Right.
rather than a grueling chore.
Now that's a fitness philosophy I can get behind.
Oh.
Okay, ready for something a little more unexpected?
Okay, let's hear it.
One of the articles dove into the connection between meditation and blood pressure.
Interesting.
And let me tell you, my mind was blown. I mean, I know meditation is great for stress, but I never realized it could actually impact my blood pressure.
Right.
Like, actually have an impact.
It's pretty fascinating. So it turns out that meditation, especially mindfulness-based practices, can directly influence those blood vessels we've been talking about.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more.
Essentially, meditation, and particularly mindfulness-based meditation, has been shown to increase the production of nitric oxide in the body.
Okay, and nitric oxide is a good thing because...
Because nitric oxide is like a magic key that unlocks those tight blood vessels, helping them to relax and widen.
Okay.
And wider blood vessels mean lower blood pressure.
Wow. I never realized there was such a direct link between meditation and blood pressure. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a mental exercise with tangible physical benefits.
Exactly. And the more we learn about the interconnectedness of our minds and bodies, the more we realize how powerful even small lifestyle changes can be.
This deep dive is really highlighting that it's not just about, like, one magic bullet. It's about this, like, holistic approach to our health, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that our bodies are complex systems.
Yes.
And even seemingly small choices can have a ripple effect on our overall well-being.
And speaking of those small choices, one article mentioned that even the way we wake up can impact our blood pressure.
Oh, wow.
Are we about to ditch our alarm clocks?
Right.
Like, what's happening?
Well, maybe not ditch them entirely, but definitely rethink how we use them. It turns out that jolting yourself awake with a blaring alarm can actually cause a temporary spike in blood pressure.
You know, I am so guilty of that. It's so bad.
It's a common thing, but finding ways to wake up more gradually can be gentler on your system.
So what's the alternative?
Things like waking up to natural light,
Okay.
using a sunrise alarm clock that gradually brightens,
Oh, I love those.
or even setting your alarm to a calming sound can make a difference. It's about minimizing that early morning stress response.
That makes a lot of sense. Like giving your body a chance to ease into the day instead of just being like thrown into high gear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we kind of connect this to the bigger picture, it's about recognizing that our bodies don't just switch on and off like machines.
Right.
They thrive on rhythm and balance.
I love that analogy. So we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
From coffee to breakfast to exercise, and even like the surprising connection between meditation and blood pressure. But before we move on, let's take a quick look at another fascinating aspect of blood pressure that often gets overlooked. And that is hydration.
Okay.
We all know staying hydrated is essential, but one of the articles specifically mentioned starting your day with a glass of warm water
Okay.
for potential blood pressure benefits. Is there any truth to that, or is it just personal preference?
That's a great question. And while the scientific evidence is still emerging, there might be something to it.
Okay.
Some proponents believe that warm water can stimulate digestion
Okay.
and kickstart your metabolism. which could indirectly benefit blood pressure regulation.
Interesting.
What-
So no harm in trying it out and just kind of seeing how you feel.
Exactly. And even if the benefits of warm water specifically are still being explored, the importance of staying adequately hydrated throughout the day is undeniable.
Yes, 100%. Couldn't agree more. All right, before we move on to the next part of our blood pressure deep dive, let's switch gears for a moment and talk about another fascinating connection:
Okay.
gut health.
Interesting.
One of the articles mentioned, kind of briefly, that what's going on in our gut could actually have a significant impact on our blood pressure.
It's true.
Yeah.
And it's an area of research that is just exploding with fascinating findings.
Okay, I love this stuff. Break it down for me. How exactly are our gut and blood pressure connected?
It all comes down to the incredible world of the gut microbiome.
Oh, okay.
Those trillions of bacteria living in our digestive system.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. It's like a whole ecosystem, like living inside of us.
Exactly. And it turns out these microscopic tenants play a much bigger role in our overall health than we initially thought, including blood pressure regulation.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. How does this microbiome actually impact our blood pressure?
So while the research is still ongoing, some studies suggest that certain types of gut bacteria can actually influence blood pressure by interacting with our blood vessels and even impacting how our bodies handle salt.
Wow, so it's not just about what we eat, but also about the balance of like good and bad bacteria in our gut.
You got it. And while more research is needed to fully understand these complex interactions, emerging evidence points to the potential of probiotics in supporting healthy blood pressure.
Probiotics, like in yogurt and fermented foods.
Exactly. Incorporating probiotic-rich foods into your diet could be a simple yet powerful way to nurture a healthy gut microbiome
Okay.
and potentially support healthy blood pressure.
This is blowing my mind. I had no idea there were so many layers to like something like blood
Yeah,
pressure.
and we're just scratching the surface.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're unraveling the surprising connections between your morning routine and your blood pressure. And we've been talking a lot about the things we can actively do to support healthy blood pressure. But one of the articles mentioned that high blood pressure is often called a silent killer. And it got me thinking, how can we be proactive about something that doesn't always wave a red flag? Like, what are the signs that we shouldn't ignore?
Yeah, that's a really crucial point. It's easy to assume that everything's fine if you're not experiencing any, obvious symptoms.
Right.
But with high blood pressure, sometimes those symptoms are subtle or even, completely absent until it's too late.
So how do we know what to look out for?
Well, while some people might experience headaches, dizziness, or even nosebleeds, others might not have any noticeable signs at all.
So it's like a silent threat, like lurking beneath the surface.
Exactly, exactly. That's why those regular checkups are so essential, even if you feel perfectly healthy.
So true. One of the articles recommended getting your blood pressure checked at least once a year.
Yeah, at least.
And even more frequently if you have any additional risk factors, like maybe family history or you struggle with high cholesterol or diabetes.
Absolutely. Those checkups are like taking your car in for a tune-up.
Okay.
They help ensure that everything is running smoothly and catch any potential issues before they become major problems.
Love that analogy. It's preventative healthcare at its best. Speaking of prevention, several of the articles emphasized how small, sustainable changes to our daily routines can have a significant impact on blood pressure over time. I think we often underestimate the power of consistency when it comes to our health.
It's like the compound interest of healthy habits.
I bet.
Even small changes, when practiced consistently, can lead to remarkable results over the long run.
I love that. The compound interest of health, it makes those daily choices feel so much more impactful.
Exactly. It's not about overhauling your entire life overnight,
Right.
right? It's about finding sustainable practices that you can incorporate into your routine and stick with for the long haul.
So it's about creating a lifestyle, not just checking off boxes on a to-do list.
Precisely. And those small changes can be incredibly powerful.
Right.
Think about it this way. Incorporating just 5 minutes of light stretching or gentle yoga into your morning routine, it might not seem like much in the moment.
Right.
But over time, those consistent movements can contribute to increased flexibility, reduced stress levels, and even healthier blood pressure.
It's amazing how those small intentional actions can ripple outwards and impact so many aspects of our well-being.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not just about the physical aspects of health, right?
Yeah.
Managing stress is a huge factor when it comes to blood pressure, and those few minutes of mindfulness can make a world of difference.
So true. It's about finding that mind-body connection. and nurturing both for optimal health. Now, I want to circle back to hydration for a moment because it's something we often overlook. We touched on starting your day with a glass of warm water earlier, but let's dive into that a bit more. Is there any specific science behind warm water, or is it more about personal preference?
That's a great question. And while the research on warm water specifically is still, somewhat limited, there's definitely something to be said for the potential benefits.
Okay, tell me more. What are those potential benefits?
Well, some proponents believe that warm water can actually aid digestion and even stimulate metabolism.
Okay.
While more research is needed in those areas, there's no denying that staying adequately hydrated is absolutely crucial for overall health, including healthy blood pressure.
It makes sense. Our bodies need water to function optimally.
Exactly. Water is essential for everything from regulating body temperature to transporting nutrients and flushing out waste products.
So warm or not, that morning glass of water is a great way to kickstart your hydration for the day.
Couldn't agree more. It's a simple yet effective habit that can have far-reaching benefits.
Speaking of simple yet effective, I want to revisit that fascinating connection between gut health and blood pressure.
Okay.
We touched on the gut microbiome earlier, but I feel like we could spend an entire deep dive exploring that incredible world within us.
Oh, absolutely. The gut microbiome is truly a fascinating frontier in health and wellness research.
Okay, so for those of us who might have missed the earlier part, can you give us a quick recap on what the gut microbiome actually is?
Of course, in the simplest terms, your gut microbiome is a vast community of trillions of bacteria and other microorganisms that live within your digestive tract.
Trillions. That's mind-blowing. It's like we're carrying around a whole universe in our gut.
I know, right? And what's even more incredible is that these tiny organisms play a much larger role in our overall health than we ever imagined.
Okay, so how does this internal ecosystem actually influence our blood pressure?
Well, while the research is still evolving, some studies have shown that certain types of gut bacteria can actually influence blood pressure through a variety of mechanisms.
Okay.
For example, some bacteria may produce compounds that directly interact with our blood vessels, either relaxing or constricting them,
Okay.
which can directly impact blood pressure.
Wow, that's amazing. So these little bacteria are tiny regulators, influencing the flow of blood in our bodies.
It's really quite remarkable. And it's not just about those direct interactions with blood vessels. Some research suggests that the gut microbiome might also play a role in how our bodies handle salt, which we know is a major factor in blood pressure regulation.
So a healthy gut could mean healthier blood pressure. That's fascinating.
Exactly. And while more research is needed to, fully unravel these complex interactions, the emerging evidence is incredibly promising.
This is really making me rethink my relationship with my gut. What can we do to nurture a healthy microbiome and potentially support healthy blood pressure?
That's a great question. One of the most impactful things you can do is focus on consuming a diverse range of fiber-rich foods.
So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, all the good stuff we should be eating anyway.
Exactly. These foods act like prebiotics,
Okay.
providing nourishment for those beneficial bacteria in your gut.
It's like feeding the good guys.
Precisely. And in addition to those prebiotic-rich foods, incorporating probiotic-rich foods into your diet can also be beneficial.
Remind us again, what are those?
Of course, probiotic-rich foods are those that contain live beneficial bacteria, like yogurt with live and active cultures, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, all those deliciously fermented foods.
It's like giving your gut a boost of good bacteria.
Exactly. And while more research is needed to fully understand, the specific strains of bacteria and their individual effects on blood pressure, incorporating a variety of probiotic-rich foods into your diet can't hurt.
It's all about creating a diverse and thriving ecosystem in there.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance and supporting that incredible world within us that plays such a vital role in our overall health.
I think this deep dive is really highlighting how interconnected our bodies truly are.
Right.
We often compartmentalize things, heart health, digestion, mental well-being.
Right. Right.
But in reality, it's all intertwined.
Absolutely. Our bodies are complex and beautifully interconnected systems.
Yeah.
And what impacts one area can have ripple effects throughout the entire body.
And understanding those connections empowers us to make informed choices that support our overall well-being.
Couldn't agree more. Knowledge is power. And the more we learn about how our bodies work, the better equipped we are to make choices that support our health and vitality.
So true. And on that note of empowerment, let's take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back for the final part of this deep dive, we'll explore some practical tips and takeaways for incorporating everything we've learned into your daily routine for a healthier, happier you. Stay tuned. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into all things blood pressure. We've covered a lot of ground, from the surprising impact of our morning coffee to that fascinating world of the gut microbiome.
It really is amazing how much we can influence our health with just those everyday choices.
It really is. And it's easy to feel a little overwhelmed with all this information. So in this last part, let's kind of shift gears from information gathering to action planning.
Yeah.
What are some key takeaways our listeners can implement in their own lives, starting right now?
Yeah, I love that approach. Let's distill this down into some actionable
Yeah.
steps.
Yes.
First and foremost, remember, knowledge is power. Simply by tuning into this deep dive, you've already taken a proactive step towards, understanding and managing your blood pressure.
It's about becoming an informed advocate for your own health, right?
Exactly. And once you have that knowledge, you can start making those small, sustainable changes to your daily routine that can have a big impact over time.
Right.
Right. Like we talked about, swapping that extra strong coffee for a gentler caffeine option, or incorporating a handful of nuts and some delicious fruit into your breakfast.
Right. Love it.
Yeah, and don't underestimate the power of movement. Even just 15 minutes of moderate intensity exercise a day can make a world of difference when it comes to blood pressure management.
Right.
And for those of us who, hit the snooze button one too many times, maybe opt for a sunrise alarm clock instead of that jarring alarm sound.
Yes. Much gentler.
It's about setting yourself up for success by creating a morning routine that supports both your physical and your mental well-being.
Totally. Totally. And that includes, taking a few moments for yourself, maybe to practice some mindfulness or even some meditation.
Right. And it might seem counterintuitive, that slowing down can actually help us better manage the demands of our busy lives.
Right.
Including our blood pressure.
It's about finding that inner calm amidst the chaos of the day.
Precisely. And while we're on the topic of, holistic health,
Yeah.
let's not forget that incredible world within us, our gut microbiome.
Yes. We learned that incorporating probiotic-rich foods like, yogurt, kefir, or sauerkraut. Right.
Into our diets can potentially support a healthy gut.
Yeah.
Which in turn can have positive effects on blood pressure.
It's all interconnected. And while more research is always being done, nourishing our gut microbiome with a diverse range of fiber-rich foods is never a bad idea.
Absolutely. So eat your veggies, folks.
Yes.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to emphasize one more really crucial point. Even if you feel perfectly healthy, don't skip those regular checkups with your doctor.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. High blood pressure is often called a silent killer for a reason, right?
Right.
Regular checkups are essential for catching any potential issues early on when they're most treatable.
It's like that old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And remember, you are your own best advocate when it comes to your health.
So true. Be proactive, ask questions, work with your healthcare provider to create a personalized plan that really supports your unique needs.
Yeah, find what works for you.
Exactly.
There's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Exactly, exactly. Well, this has been, I think, an incredible deep dive into the world of blood pressure and morning routines. A huge thank you to you for sharing your insights and your expertise with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I always enjoy chatting about this stuff. It's so important.
It is, it is. And to our amazing listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. Remember, every day is a chance to make healthier choices. So go forth, create that blood pressure-friendly morning routine, and embrace a healthier, happier you. Until next time, be well.